It's time for the Uncommon Wealth bonus content.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the bonus edition of Uncommon Wealth Podcast, where I get to recap a little bit of what Kevin and I talked about in our last podcast. One, I absolutely love the recap that he gave and how it all kind of circled back to the old University of South Dakota. Isn't that interesting how life just brings you to a place, maybe you're not ready for it, you pull away because you think you need something different, and it kind of brings you back. That happened almost twice or almost three times for Kevin as he went back to South Dakota, but that's exactly where he got his undergrad. He went to obviously get his associate somewhere else, but ended up finishing his undergrad there at South Dakota. Then he left, came back, and then ended up coming back for his master's in grad school. So that's super cool. But I loved also too how you can tell Kevin has always been the guy who's like, well, I'm going to try something. And him taking his family to Hawaii to figure out if that's the path they need to go to, I think has definitely ingrained something in Kevin where he's always been uncommon. He just has never known how to kind of unleash this power. And another thing that I think I kind of saw, so two parallels. One, the University of South Dakota, how he left and came back, left and came back, left and came back. But also banking has been something for Kevin that he has gotten a lot of experience through his banking career. And he kind of always kind of comes back to that because I think underlying Kevin is the guy who really wants to help people. And he wants to do it in a way that he knows how, because that's obviously where he has experience, but that's where he has taken people and then help them kind of negotiate this harder to negotiate thing, which is banks and borrowing money and talking coaching, this, that, and the other. But definitely a valuable individual when you think about all this stuff and all the experience that it came from. But I love the talk track that we were talking about as being uncomfortable. And something that I can definitely vouch for Kevin is not only does he tell people to get uncomfortable, he also becomes uncomfortable. And he's been transparent with me in his kind of process to this uncommon path. And the people he's surrounding himself with and the wisdom they're giving him are so awesome. And he takes that to heart. Like now that they've said it, the hard things, he's going to change and adapt and figure out how to make himself even more uncomfortable than he ever has. And so what a great podcast. If you haven't, I would highly recommend just going back and taking a listen of the Kevin Lease podcast that we just did, or I just did, because there's a lot of value in there. And we did talk about obstacles that you have to overcome. But in that, I feel like we just kind of talked about our own personal things that we've had to overcome. For me and mine, it was talking about like, I've never gone 100% into something because I always want to have this flick of doubt. Well, if I could have gone harder, I could have achieved what I wanted to. And me trying to coach that out of my son, and coach that out of myself, I think is going to be beneficial for everybody in the future. So definitely believe in yourself, enjoy today, embrace the uncomfortable, be competitive with yourself, and surround yourself with people who are supporting you is all wisdom that you're going to get out of this podcast. But I really appreciate one, Kevin's friendship, but two, Kevin's transparency and vulnerability just to kind of speak where he's at and how he's helping people. I think they are getting a lot of knowledge from him. So Kevin, thanks for being on the show. Thank you for just imparting some of your wisdom to myself and the listeners. I needed to hear that and it was good for me. So thanks again. And you've been listening to the Uncommon Wealth Podcast.